Hello there and welcome. It is time for round three of our three-mirror September tournament at Magic Stronghold in Vancouver, BC. And this game is between myself and Amber. And so, because it's bring three squads, play each combination once, we are both actually list locked into these pairings. My other squad was Moff Gideon's, but I used him in the first two games, and I believe Amber's was the Grievous box, and so she had also already played that in her previous two games. So it's going to be Maul Dooku, but Maul is going to also have droids in his list, basically taking Asajj's squad. And so that list will have 7 force and also Maul's ability to use damage instead of force. So there will be no shortage of force happening on Amber's side of the board, especially with Dooku also able to refresh 2 if a secondary or primary is wounded. Django being able to refresh 2 if he wounds a primary or secondary. And Magna Guards and the B1s don't really use any force, so yeah, plenty of force going on that side. Meanwhile, on my side, with Vader 2 and Thrawn, I will have 5 force, and Vader does get a refresh at the start of his activations, but only bringing 5 with that 1 or 2 refresh, compared to 7 with 2 or potentially 4 refresh on that side. But anyway, let's see how it goes. Amber will be going first. She picked her mission, which is Sabotage Showdown, while I was bringing Never Tell Me the Odds. I had played my previous 2 games on that, and she was less familiar with that. And obviously, when you bring a mission, you usually want to pick it. So that's what she picked. And let's get started. So the Shatterpoint ability is the refresh. So I think she picked Maul first and reserved him immediately. And of course, this is the game that I don't break Moff Gideon, so it still costs 1 instead of 2 for her. Of course, in my other games, my opponent never reserved. So it's the usual thing that people say where you don't really feel Moff Gideon's ability making the reserve cost 2 because they just choose not to. But it probably did have an effect on that choice for them. Kalani was the second option, so a good choice to reserve there, because Kalani can get 3 out of 4 of the support characters to dash, moving more people into the board. So trying to decide where to move that Magna Guard. Just pulling them back to where they were deployed. Doing the dash away towards the nearby midline point. Going to spend a force because there's no targets for Kalani to get tactical network off of the tree there. So just going to pay for the tactical network, have the B1 dash up and to that point. Not in range of anyone to make a 5 dice attack, but so instead we'll get a hunker. And then Kalani still has 2 actions to do. So, move action. And also take cover. So we're both going to control, or no, I'm going to control my back 2. She gets controlling 3. And I picked, was it Vader? Cards are too shiny with the sleeves there. Oh, right. I think it was the ISBs that got picked. Oops, that's the wrong one. So between their dash and advance, they could reach the ladder up to the higher elevation there. And then they'd be taking shots down onto the B1, attempting to push them off. They prefer to be in melee, but they do have a shove on 2. So, and B1s have poor defense. So, so looking at that option, doing the dash first, so tactical or assault tactics, taking damage to get the focus. And then looking at whether climbing or using the ladder is a better option. So yeah, doing the advance to the ladder. Get them both up. Now the B1s are hunkered, so they'll get an extra die from that. However, I had to be reminded, or I had to ask just to double check that because the attackers are at a higher elevation, there's no terrain within one of the B1s that is at or higher the attacker's elevation. So the B1s don't get the extra die from terrain cover. They do get it from the hunker, but not the terrain. Getting 3 through on this for 3 damage and the shove. So shove will be able to push him off, back down with his buddy there, and I can take the follow-up in order to be on the proper elevation with that point. And the other one, gonna do the same attack. They're still contesting the point, so they do get their protection. So it was only 2 damage getting through. The other one's going to shoot B1 again. Getting 3 through again, and because I can't shove, take the pin. So 2 damage in pin getting through because of the protection. So now I'll take that point for 3. So Amber's looking at having Maul go out of reserve in order to take that point back. So yeah, force speed and the climb action will easily get him up there. And I think, yeah, taking a damage for the force speed. Gonna take another 2 damage, for there was no place to run. Pull him closer, but get the expose. So yeah, 7 left, 7 health left. I think she's on Dark Rage side. So to get 7, that would require 4 steps. Right, but then there's 1 from the expertise. So, well, it would still take 4 steps. But she's getting 6 damage through because 1 of them's from the expertise. Does get to shove him off though, so she will take that point and do the follow-up. So she'll be taking 3 points, and we'll each get a momentum. Luckily, she got 3 through to get the shove. Otherwise, it would have remained tied. So I know she wanted the expose and to keep it a melee attack, but you kind of the dice displacement here is good for making sure that you are going to flip the point. So either if you want to do it first to get the expose on, but still pull them off to make sure you're flipping it, and it would make it a ranged attack instead. And you'd have to be in Sinister Cunning, but that is arguably kind of more interesting stance anyway when you're not fully going for the wound. And then or you just don't do it first and do it after to see, like, if you don't get the shove to get them off the objective, then you could use it afterwards in order to make sure you pull them off and get the point. But anyway, it works out. And so my turn, I'm getting the Shatterpoints, looking at the options, and I see that the ISBs could get that point simply by moving onto it and just outbodying Maul. So that is definitely tempting. Otherwise, well, because the other options are someone with out of activation movement, like Stormtrooper Sergeant, but unfortunately, Stormtrooper Sergeant will do a damage to them, which I think they only have 1 health left. So that's not going to work to get them onto that point. No one else actually has out of activation movement they can give out on their activation. There's obviously some coming from Thrawn's tactic abilities, tactic cards, but not of his card himself. So with the Shatterpoints, refreshing a force as well, which is nice. And I am going to go with the ISBs, looking to see if the dash can get him to that ladder. I think it can, going under the gantry towards the B1s. So he's going to pop up beside Maul. The other one's going to come down. And so this time, they'll actually both be in melee focused, so they'll get the impact and better expertise as well. So I get 2 through. So I'm going to do 2 damage. And I'm getting the shove here, but the other one, I also want to keep the other one in melee. So just going to throw the pin on instead, since I'm already outbodying on that point. And hopefully the second one will also be able to shove. So yeah, the second one gets 2 steps through again as well. And so this time I'm going to do the shove. So now Maul is off the point and has been pinned. So that's always nice to have Maul pinned so that he can't. It's a little more difficult for him to run back. And so that will flip that point and get 3 again. And I realized that they have another action left, so I think they did to recover. So Ruby is Amber is picking the B1s and going to put them in reserve. She can put them on the bottom of the deck, but she doesn't necessarily want to do that either because they can help her get that other point. But she is drawing into Dooku, so Dooku will give the Magna Guard a dash, and as well as himself. And then doing a move action, move forward. Right beside that Magna Guard. And then gonna take cover to be to get a hunker underneath that point. I pointed out the protection protocols so that other Magna Guard can also get an advance up. And so that will score her 3 and another momentum for each of us. So now I pull a battle tactic. Which one is it? I didn't bring brutality. So it's either the full advance. Oh no, I see the active ability. So it's the I expect results, not perfection. The active ability allows someone on the board to suffer 3 damage, but to get a range 2 push. However, the alternate is that a Galactic Empire supporting unit or secondary unit can get a dash, and that's each character in the unit. They lose their hunker, but I don't have any hunkers. So not much of a cost there. So ISBs are already on a point. They can't really threaten that other point. So looking at who else I can move forward, knowing that the Stormtrooper Sergeant is a little slow, and a lot of my movement can go into the supports. I think I checked to see if the stormtroopers could just do an advance to that ingress point. So might as well move the Stormtrooper Sergeant up with a dash because he has no kind of extra mobility to move more than 1 move action. And then I draw into Thrawn. So I do want to get a body onto that point that Amber just took with the Magna Guards and Dooku. And Thrawn can move towards that point and take it between his move action and the reposition from his active ability. So rather than risk picking Vader or Callus, who won't be able to threaten that point, go ahead with Thrawn. Oh, nope. Never mind. Considering the reserve. Right, okay. So instead, I am going to put him in reserve. But spend 1 to get the reposition. So my hope here, I guess I take the risk of drawing into Vader, which happens, but because she's leaving the back point that now Jango is on, I'm thinking that at some point I'm going to be able to threaten that point, and so that's why I'm trying to give Thrawn the extra reposition into the board so that he could potentially go for that point. With Vader going, I can refresh a force, and he's going to take the dash and advance and go towards Maul. Maul has 7 damage on him and a pin. So I see that I only need to do 4 damage on him. And if I wound him, then another Galactic Empire character can dash. And now I have Thrawn and Stormtrooper Sergeant within a dash of the ladder to go up. So I'm gonna go for the wound on Maul here. Now I think, yes, so I put Vader up the ingress point. So this is going to be a ranged attack. And that will also mean that Maul can't retaliate off of this wound. I do need to get 3 steps or 2 and 1 from the 1 damage from the expertise. And oh yeah, no, because he's already pinned, I only need the 2 steps. So I only get the 1 for 2 damage and a shove. However, because of the fact that it would be nice to wound him on this ranged attack, wound with Vader so he doesn't get shuffled back into the deck, and give a dash to Thrawn on the other side of the board to take that point. I see that I have Callus, and Callus can give Vader a 1 reroll, 1 die reroll of his fails, and it's a 50-50 because all the blocks have been canceled out by hits, so there's no blocks left, and that means a crit or a hit will get the wound for me. So it does pan out for me. I got the hit, and therefore the damage and pin, which becomes another damage. Maul can't do his revenge attack. I get a momentum, and I'm able to give the dash to Thrawn in order to get the 4 points. So Amber gets the Magna Guards and moves them forward to the ingress point. So we're going to bring them all. Oh yeah, one's going to advance forward to the ingress point. The other can climb. And so they're both going to be engaged with Thrawn. They're going to attack into Thrawn. He's in aggressive assault. And so she's asking about shoving. Looks like to push straight back, then he's going to land on the ladder. But she points out that she's actually attacking with the other guy. So yeah, he bumps into that part of the building. I think it was just 2 damage and a shove. Or just 1 damage and a shove. This time she gets 3 successes through. So 5 damage and either disarm, the 2 shoves, either disarm or reposition. So another 5 damage and disarm for 6 out of 9 on Thrawn. And so she will get 3 points. And a momentum for it being on my side still. Now I see that I can, I need to get 4 points in order to win this struggle. Now Django is the only body left on that back point, and he just needs 1 shove in order to not, in order to no longer be on that point. So looking at the doing the reposition, in order to get the extra dice, I do need to be contesting the point. But the reposition means that I'm not, it doesn't matter that I'm engaged with the Magna Guards, I can still do that full advance. And so yeah, he's well within range of that point. And then go to attack Django. Realize from that other angle that I'm actually engaged with Dooku, which I didn't see when moving him from behind the building. But Amber is nice enough to allow me to adjust my movement a little bit. Because my plan was to do a recover in order to get rid of the disarm. But if I'm engaged with Dooku, I need to move in order to be out of engagement. So she thinks that if I just moved a little differently, that I could have been out of range, and is nice enough to let me do that retroactively. And so I'm going to take the shot in aggressive assault. Even though it's less dice, it has a shove on 1, which is all I need to get Django off that point. So getting the 2 through for 2 damage, shove and strain. So as well as getting him off that point, putting a strain on him. Take the follow-up, try to make sure I'm not bumping into those crates. And so that will get me the 4 points and the struggle on that. So it's kind of the lines on either side. The center objective is going to be active either way. And so the objectives on the sides that the Magna Guard and ISBs are on will not be active for sure. So it's between, I have both of my active objectives claimed, and but then I've taken one of hers, so she picks the one that she is controlling with Kalani and the B1s there, which is a good choice for sure. Either 2 or 3 bodies on that point, so that's definitely going to be difficult to deal with. Luckily for me, Callus is still in his same spot where he was contesting the now block objective. Priority is going to be the center. And so we each have 3 cards left. So she has Jango. Jango B1s and Shatterpoint. So Jango's going next. And I'm just gonna, I can't remember if she takes the damage for the strain or recovers first. Yeah, I think she did the recover to get rid of the strain. So a move action to the first ingress point, a jump for to get in range of that center point, and which, yeah, pay for the jetpack. So that'll get her 3 points to start here. I'm picking a Stormtrooper Sergeant. So I can give an advance to a supporting unit. Both characters. So basically it has to be Stormtroopers because the ISBs, or no, I recovered earlier with the ISBs, so it can be either. And I do see there that the advance could take them to that ingress point to go onto the center and outbody Jango. So that's the option I take there. Oops, that's callous. There we go. So now Stormtrooper Sergeant can kind of do whatever he wants. The priority is on her back objective, but moving the ISBs isn't going to be enough to claim that point. And the Stormtrooper Sergeant on his own isn't going to be able to move and push Jango off. And seeing that the climb is also not enough to even get him up to the right elevation. So I'm just going to move him into the board and take a shot. Let's move him underneath the center objective, just in case it happens that like my ISBs, they have 3 health left, 5 damage on them, I think, or maybe now 6, so 2 health left, so they could easily be wounded, but then getting Jango off the point would leave Stormtrooper Sergeant at the ground level at least. So he's going to make an attack on Jango. And getting 2 crits through for 2 damage, a heal, so I can take another one off the ISBs, and do a shove on Jango. So checking the angle, I can bring him down off of the gantry. That'll flip the center, get me 2 and a momentum since it's still on Amber's side. Now the priority is the center for Amber. And she's getting the Shatterpoint, which for this struggle is gives whoever she picks a dash as well. So giving the dash, well, thinking that it's only one dash, she gives it to the back one, but the ability is actually a dash for each character. But either way, they're both easily in range of that objective. I'm going to try to finish off the ISBs. And we'll easily be able to shove one of them off as well in order to get that center point. So 3 damage, 2 shoves getting through. So that'll get a wound and therefore a momentum. Shove that one off. And then they're not engaged with anyone else. But just going to attack the other one. See if he gets shoved off as well. So getting 4 successes through on this one. So going to do the 5 damage, 2 shoves, and a heal. So basically, mainly the heal on Django, and then those 2 shoves, take him to the edge and then off. Gets a reposition and looks at going for the back point, but unfortunately it's the farther away Magna Guard that is attacking right now. So we're just going to use that reposition to block the ladder. And so she'll get 3 points off of that. So the priority is on the middle objective. And I pull Callus. So Callus would have to... he's not going to outbody them on the point. He can only shove one off. I don't think they have any damage on them. Yeah, they don't have any damage on them yet. So he really can't take that point. But all he can really do is move towards it, be a body on it for later, to try and break the tie if he pushes one off or start getting damage into them. I can reserve him for free. I'd also pay 1 to do a reposition, but that's not going to help me out too much either. But I do decide to go with him. Take his tactic dash, and then I can advance. I think I can advance over to the other tower. Or climb. Oh yeah, right, close enough to climb there because there's no ladders on that tower. So get the climb onto the edge there. Not sure I'm in range, but I'm gonna try to put some damage into them and hopefully push one off, or at least off of the objective. So I'm going to spend the force for the focus and sharpshooter 2, maybe 3 extra dice on this attack, or impact 2. I think they're probably engaged there. Either way, well, it'll matter for the expertise, but yeah, it is melee. So I do get a shove from the expertise. So that allows me to take the top track and get some more damage on them. So I think I get 3 successes here. So so I can do 5 damage and expose instead of the instead of 2 damage, 2 shoves, and 2 heals, because the 2 heals aren't going to do anything. I already have enough shoves to get him off of the objective. And do the follow-up so that he can get in range of the objective to tie it. So only getting 1 again on this turn. But I think what I have left is stormtroopers and a battle tactic. And that'll be the one with the advance for, or reposition for, a Galactic Empire character. The priority is the back point, my back point, and the only one that Amber doesn't have. So she's actually going to pull B1s out of reserve. Take an advance. Towards it. But they aren't quite in range there. So we're gonna, I think it was a take cover or recover on that. So she does only get the 2 points. And then I get my battle tactic for an advance. And now that only Kalani is on her back point, that point has a little more potential for me to actually go for it. I know that the stormtroopers are next, and I need to be able to get a second body on that center point, and I don't have any force left, so they don't have the ability to use their battle tactic or their assault tactics for a dash. So yeah, they do need the extra movement in order to get there. So gonna do the advance, take a strain. Next card is them. So they're gonna do recover for to get rid of the strain. Then they're going to do move action just to get onto the center point. Maybe I'll just Oh yeah. Amber realizes that she can do not so fast because they're activating, and one of them's within 3 of Django. And so that's going to get 1 damage through on Stormtroopers. And I also realized that I haven't rolled for priority yet, but it is the center point, which I was going for anyway. So no change to plan there. Gonna take my move. And the other one, so this is kind of a misplay here. The other one just moves forward, but contesting that back point. And because the struggle token is pretty close to her side, I was kind of just thinking, okay, let's put him in a position for potentially next struggle. I got the 3 points here and a momentum. But really, she's starting to threaten my back point, which is now priority. And so I really should have put had him go the other way and contest that point, because right now she can take it just by being at the ground level. At the ground level under that point, and otherwise she would need 2 bodies, which it turns out she does pick the B1s, and so she is able to move them both. So he would have been outbodied anyway, but if she didn't pick the B1s, then I might have been able to hold that point instead. Oh, it's not actually the B1s. It is Kalani. So Kalani gave them each a dash, which is going to take that point. And then, so now she's looking at the center point to see if Kalani can affect that point. However, because she's blocked the ladder, all you can really do is shoot one of them to shove them off and make it a tie. She looks at Thrawn because Thrawn only has 3 health left. So basically checking her options for wounding, seeing that she can't really flip any more points. Also checking for tactile network. So she does need to move just to get line of sight onto Thrawn to look around that building. So that'll work there. And then take a shot at him. So with her threatening to wound Thrawn, I remember that there is a he has the ability, if a primary gets wounded, to refresh your order deck, but the order deck was just refreshed. So this is actually the perfect time to be wounding Thrawn, because it removes that option of being able to refresh my force and all that. So she only gets 1 through, which does 2 damage and leaves him on 1 health left. But she's also because she had to move further away to see the building, or see around the building. She's out of range to use tactile network in order to have someone else attack. However, the Magna Guard only gets a dash, and I don't think he would be in range anyway, and probably doesn't want to have him leaving that point. But she will flip the priority, so she'll get 3 here anyway. Now I get Vader, and I don't know if I've rolled for priority yet, but I see that Kalani is now in a perfect position to just be shoved off of that point, and Vader can take it. I won't be able to refresh a force because I have no force to refresh. But being able to flip that back point would be really good, because everyone's kind of committed to either the center or my back point on her side. Vader could also, of course, just walk back at the proper elevation to take the back point, to take the block. But he's really kind of the only person threatening that point that Kalani's on right now. Even if I wound and give someone a dash, I can't get them over to the back point. It'd be nice to be able to just move someone to the proper elevation and take it, but that would have been possible if I had moved that stormtrooper over, and the dash would get him up to the proper elevation. But anyway, I'm not going for the one shot on Kalani anyway. I want to guarantee the shove off. So yeah, do move action, anger, hate, and aggression for another dash. Be right on top of that point. Get the extra dice. So I'm getting a full tree here. So maybe you could have gotten the wound, but I like the guarantee. So we'll get 7 damage on Kalani anyway, so if somebody wants to come later and finish him off, that's possible. Also doing pin, which is nice on Kalani, doing 2 shoves and disarm. I get a reposition, but he needs to stay there in order to take that point. The other thing about not wounding is that now he gets shuffled back into the deck, and so that is so if she does end up taking that point back, then Vader is in the deck threatening to flip it again. So I get 3 points and a momentum because it's still on Amber's side. So priority is the center again. And Amber picks Maul. So this is a good option in order to try and flip that point and get it, get the point from Vader. He's blocked from trying to get the point, the center point, which is the priority point. But Kalani has already gone, so they're not going to go back and get Vader off the point. Django also could, but she's actually going to spend force, the 2 force for force speed, and then do the move action in order to get engaged with Vader. And so seeing that he's already exposed, she doesn't do there is no place to run. And so she only gets I think 2 damage. She only got the one success for 2 damage through. So she actually doesn't flip that point. And so I think the focus, for that ability, the focus for her is on the exposed. So she chose not to do that before the attack because he was already exposed. And then didn't really think about the fact that it could be done after the attack to just move him off the point potentially. Might have needed to position a little differently. Maybe a little further away with Maul so that he could be pulled by, but that might have been a way to remove him from that point. So anyway, she will get the 1 point. And then the priority is the one that Vader has. Stormtrooper Sergeant is picked next. What I want to be doing is getting somebody off on that back point so that I can get all 4. The Stormtrooper, again, he's still too far out of position to do that. Stormtrooper Sergeant is kind of underneath the center. I could move the ISBs, but that's not going to help much because they're wounded. So I am going to advance him over and just move the other one in, and so that'll do a damage to them. But hopefully I can get them up there later, and then I think what I can do here, and hopefully I think I see that, is that if I can have Stormtrooper Sergeant also get in contesting range and push one of the B1s out of contesting range, then I would be outbodying 2 to 1 and be able to flip that point, even though we're all not at the right elevation. And so with the advance, I am able to get over there. And I can also do coordinated offensive. It's still free because he is not wounded. So I can add an extra die to this attack, even though it will be a melee attack. All I need is to get those 2 shove, or get the 2 steps for the shove. And the B1s have only 3 dice on defense in the melee attack here. So 2 damage. I get a pin from the expertise, a shove, which I needed, and a heal, so I can take 1 off of I think I took a condition off the ISBs. So I do flip that, having 2 to 1, so that's the big 4-point swing. And the priority becomes that back point again. But all she needs to do is, again, just if somebody can get to the proper elevation on that back point, then they can take it. The point that Vader and Maul are on is now tied, so that's another one that will be easy to take. The center is still a 2 to 1 spot for me. So that out of the options is probably the hardest one for her to be able to take. I think she gets the B1s here. And they're out of, or they are engaged. Right, the one is out of engagement with Stormtrooper Sergeant because I shoved them away, so they can climb, and so that'll be able to flip that point. So I'm going to move right up onto that point, block the ladder for that Stormtrooper that was left way out of position. So looking at the targets, the 1 is still engaged. 1B1 is still engaged with Stormtrooper Sergeant. So has to do the melee attack on him there. So getting 2 damage and a reposition. And so now that one will be able to reposition over to the ladder and get up to the proper elevation, even though they will be out of contesting range. But again, threatening to be just a dash away from putting a second body at the proper elevation there. And the other one can do a ranged attack. And so the 2 targets for them basically are Stormtrooper Sergeant with 2 damage out of 9. Stormtroopers, I think they got 2 out of 9 as well. Callus is at full health. So I'm just going to do another attack into Stormtrooper Sergeant. So 1 going through for 1 damage. And so she will flip the priority point for 2. So priority stays in the same spot. I get the Shatterpoint. And so the easiest way to get that one back is just wake up the ISBs, have them do a climb, and then that's 2 bodies on the point. You also want to do that anyway because they'd like to be in melee for their attacks. So I think the 1 is not in range to get on the gantry with the climb. So I'm going to do pay 2 for the dash and focus from assault tactics. Taking a damage for the focus action, and then climbing them both up. So I decide to attack the one that's on the objective. If I attack, I realize afterwards, because she asks about protection, that if I attacked the one that was not contesting, then I would have gotten it, then she wouldn't have the protection, so I would get the full damage instead of one less through. But my hope here is to potentially also shove them off the gantry. So just doing doing 2 damage and pin. And then I'm again keeping him in melee, hoping to get the shove through on the second one, but leaving him up there because I'm going to flip the point again anyway, just like earlier. Going to flip the point, so if I don't get the shove, it's okay. It'll obviously be nice to get the shove, so that's one less body on the point. So getting 4 successes through this time. So we're going to do 3 damage from +1 from the pin and get the shove. So that will wound them for momentum. And so that will, because of the momentum, those 4 points will get me the game, the struggle in the game. So, yeah, afterwards, we kind of go back to that play with Maul, and I mentioned that, yeah, I was surprised that you didn't still use there's no place to run to pull him off after not getting the shoves on the attack. But I think still focusing on more on the expose rather than the movement. So, and because yeah, that did allow me to just keep farming that point, leaving Vader on there, and then be able to, and the center point was also quite well controlled, being on the gantry. Not much room for more bodies there, and I had it 2-1. So then I could really just focus on everything, trying to move everything towards that back point and get it back from the B1s there. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. It's fun playing Thrawn. As I kind of mentioned, I think in the round 1 video, I had picked up Moff Gideon and Thrawn because they seem like very interesting control-oriented boxes. But then when this 3 mirror event was announced. I was originally gonna maybe borrow Vader's box, but decided with my idea of reposing him, that I would just get it myself, and I'm glad I did, because um, after also watching Donovan's games and seeing how much of a control piece that Vader actually is, rather than um, just a piece that's going to go for wounds like the previous Vader. I really liked all the combinations. My second game was where I played Thrawn and Moff, and that one went to time. That one was a bit of a dicey game. The struggle one went very long, and then struggle two, I was not going to be able to get from the flop. So I actually got scored 0 points on struggle two, and just saved my force. And then struggle three, was I was able to get all 3 points on the final turn, which ended up being time. So an interesting game because, and we've talking about it a little bit on Zion's Planet Slack, because it was the first game for a while for me that's gone to time, and I know that with Thrawn there's a lot of extra decisions, and like you pull the battle tactics in between activations, so it's like there's kind of like an extra activation worth of stuff that you're thinking about, and like on each card, like thinking about, do I reserve and reposition. So definitely takes a little more thinking to him, to be playing smoothly. So, but I really want to put more reps into Thrawn, and more so to be able to play faster with him. So I think I figured out kind of how he works in those, and evaluating, whether to reserve and potentially get those battle tactics and what you can do with them. So I liked the lists for each of them, each of the combinations. The Moff Thrawn one maybe leans a little too heavily into out of activation movement as the advantage, because the opponent was spamming strains all over the place, but I had to set it off in order to keep my advantage with movement. So something to think about with that one, but I definitely liked the pairings of each of them with Vader as well, and was able to, as you saw, get both of those games in 2 struggles. So Empire being able to defeat the Separatists in this match. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more.